Murdaugh, I sentence you to the State Department of Corrections on each of the murder indictments in the murder of your wife, Maggie Murdaugh. I sentence you for a term of the rest of your natural life for the murder of Paul Murdaugh, whom you probably loved so much. I sentence you to prison for murdering him for the rest of your natural life.
Well, you just heard from Judge Newman, who sentenced Alex Murdaugh to 2 consecutive life sentences. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for News 19 at noon. I'm Whitney Sullivan. Now, Newman said he could not understand why Murdaugh would have killed his wife and son, and why he would not admit what he did. Our team was at the Colleton County Courthouse when the sentence was handed down. News 19's Andrea Mock joins us now. And Andrea, Judge Newman had some harsh words for Murdaugh.
Absolutely. I have sat through quite a few sentencings in my life, and I have sat through several of Judge Clifton Newman's sentencings before, and I would say that was definitely a scathing speech he gave. Again, 2 life sentences handed down for Alex Murdaugh. Now, a lot of you might be asking, why not the death penalty? Judge Newman addressed that a little bit. The prosecution did not seek the death penalty in this case. It is up to the prosecution and the prosecutor's office to decide what they think will lead to a conviction. And oftentimes juries have a hard time with death penalty cases. So that is why they didn't seek it. But it was very interesting. When he spoke to Alex Murdaugh, he said, your family has been prosecuting cases for a century in this county, and people have been put to death for less than what you did. Very harsh words from Judge Newman. Something else he said, and this really gave me goosebumps. He said, I know you have to see Maggie and Paul at night. I know you have to see their eyes and their faces when you try to go to sleep. He said, I hope you remember the last time you saw their eyes. And at a very awkward moment then, that's when Alex Murdaugh spoke up and said, oh yes, I do. I see them every day. All right, let's move on. Now, there was a moment again where he talked back and forth with Alex Murdaugh during the sentencing. Listen to this.
I tell you again, I respect this court, but I'm innocent. I would never, under any circumstances, hurt my wife, Maggie, and I would never, under any circumstances, hurt my son, Paul.
Well, and it might not have been you. It might have been the monster you become when you take 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 opioid pills. Maybe you become another person. I've seen that before. The person standing before me was not the person who committed the crime, though it's the same individual.
All right, you heard that. Judge Clifton Newman calling Alex Murdaugh a monster. We are waiting just behind me for a press conference from the defense. We will let you know when that happens. But we did have a press conference earlier from SLED Chief Mark Keel. Now, he told everybody listening, listen, y'all know me. All of the local media knows me. I don't do press conferences, but I felt the need to speak up today. And if you are wondering why that is, yesterday, during his closing arguments, Jim Griffin came out and flatly said that SLED manipulated the evidence. Obviously, SLED took great offense to that. Chief Mark Keel took great offense to that. Here's a little bit of what he had to say.
I want to make one thing clear to everybody. There are no winners today. This case serves notice to anyone who aided or assisted Alex Murdaugh in committing any crime that justice will be sought.
All right, something else that Mark Keel said, it was kind of foreshadowing. He said, to anybody who has helped Alex Murdaugh commit any crimes, know that justice will be served. So we will see if SLED has any charges coming in the future. Now, our News 19 reporter Rachel Ripp has been here in the courthouse, and was actually in the courthouse during the sentencing today. You said you were surprised that we didn't see more emotion from Alex Murdaugh's brother.
Yes, absolutely. I think just looking at their reaction throughout this entire trial, it's been interesting to see. And John Marvin, he was emotional when he took that witness stand. I've seen him just looking over at the family throughout the trial in certain points in testimony, maybe graphic points in testimony where there are autopsy photos shown, and he, will be visibly upset. I also noticed that Brooklyn, Buster's girlfriend, through this sentencing, and actually before the sentencing, she had her hand on Buster through that time. Now, it certainly felt different just being in that courtroom this morning. It was more of a somber, very serious tone. There were 10 jurors who ended up showing up to the sentencing, all of whom were whispering, talking to each other before word from the judge. Before that sentencing, the state asked the judge for the maximum sentence, 2 life sentences, but offered condolences to the Murdaugh family for everything they've had to endure. Before giving his sentencing, Judge Newman talked at length about Alex's demeanor in court, saying both in the room and on the stand it was, quote, duplicitous, in other words, deceitful.
What tangle, web we weave, what did you mean by that?
Meant when I lied, I continue to lie.
And the question is, when will it end? When will it end? And it's ended already for the jury because they've concluded that you continued to lie and lied throughout your testimony. And perhaps with all the throng of people here, they, for the most part, all believe, or 80, 90%, 99% believe that you continue to lie now when your statement of denial to the court.
Newman went
A
to say
notice
that
of
he
alibi
sure
was filed in this case by counsel in November, and we conducted a hearing, pretrial hearing, in which you would lose every case of that, like that. Cases you will take this up.
Now, Judge Clifton Newman went on to say that he's sure Maggie and Paul, like you said, visit him at night in his dreams and will continue to do so. When given the opportunity to speak, Alec reiterated that he would never hurt Maggie or Paul. Judge Newman said, maybe it wasn't you. Maybe it was the monster you became after taking all of those pills. Now, Judge Newman noted just how sad it was that, Alec's family legacy, they, have been the keepers of justice and the keepers of rulings over, decades.
He said for a century.
Yes.
Yeah, he said in court for a century.
Yeah, and they had to remove that picture of his grandfather just to, keep decorum, to make sure that it was a fair trial and everything like that. I know that Judge Newman said he knew him, just from the legal community, and how sad it was to see him, from being so friendly-natured, so upbeat, to where he is today.
Yeah, certainly you could tell in the sentencing that this was personal to him. This was personal to Judge Newman. But again, it all came down to that lie. And Judge Newman saying, and the prosecution saying, that after he had lied for an entire year about the last time he saw his family, nothing else he said could be believed. Now, Sam Perez has been down here with us and talking to folks about their reaction from the sentencing today and to the fact that Alex Murdaugh will never be a free man again. Sam?
From the prosecution and defense teams to people who testified on the witness stand to a lot of the jurors and many members of the media, a lot of people have gathered to hear that sentencing. While now we have an answer for Maggie and Paul, there are still other victims out there waiting for justice. I caught up with attorney Eric Bland, who represents a lot of the different victims of Alex Murdaugh's financial crimes, including the Satterfield family.
Sentencing commentary by the judge today was as powerful as almost anything I've ever heard in my life about this will sear into your soul and you'll have to sleep with your soul. And Judge Newman said, I'm not done with you yet. We're going to schedule all your other cases and I'm going to put my foot on your throat on those cases as well. So, look, it's not a happy day. You know, 2 people got snuffed out of their lives way too short, way too early. So, but justice was done, and it made our state look well.
Reporting in Walterboro, Sam Perez, News 19 WLTX.
All right, thank you so much, Sam. Yeah, talking about those lies, Creighton Waters said last night when he was addressing the media that was one last con for Alex Murdaugh trying to lie on the stand, but now he was done. Now, here's the thing. If you can see behind me, there have been people from the community showing up in droves. I mean, people are literally pulling up their cars, letting their families get out. There are children here. There are folks with their dogs here. This has affected the Walterboro community in Colleton County so much. So for that, we're going to listen into what some folks had to say here about the verdict.
And see, it used to be a time justice was based on your last name, where you from, your fine linen, how much money you got, your fine china. But this time, it was different.
Yeah, well, I guess it's kind of exciting, you know, with all the scenery, the cameras, the trial and everything going on, you know.
Well, we've been following it for 3 years since the boat wreck, and I think he's gotten his just due.
Yeah, a lot of those folks being happy that justice was done. You know, Attorney General Alan Wilson helped in this case and was here every day. And last night when he was talking to the media, he said, "We can't bring back Maggie and Paul, but we can bring them justice." Alex Murdaugh, their murderer, will spend his rest of his life behind bars. 2 life sentences today handed down by Judge Clifton Newman. Now, of course, you can keep it here to WLTX.com. Also, check out our new News 19 WLTX Plus app, and we will be streaming intermittently throughout the day on YouTube.